When I first moved to Japan, I was 24 and eager for adventure. I had always been fascinated by the culture, the food, the language. I'd studied Japanese in university and jumped at the chance to take a teaching job in Tokyo. It felt like a dream. The neon lights, the bustling streets, the efficiency of everything. It was overwhelming in the best way. But I wasn't prepared for what lurked beneath the city's polished exterior. It started with the train. Like any commuter, I took the last train home almost every night. It was always packed, a sea of exhausted salarymen, university students, and night shift workers. But as the weeks passed, I started noticing something strange. Every night, at exactly 11:45 p.m., an empty seat would be left open, no matter how crowded the train was. It was always the same seat in the far corner by the window. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was coincidence, or maybe it was some unspoken rule I wasn't aware of. But then I saw her. A woman, dressed in a pale blue kimono with damp, stringy black hair would appear in the reflection of the window, sitting in the empty seat. But when I turned to look directly, there was no one there. I told myself I was imagining things. Long work hours, stress, maybe even a cultural misunderstanding. I tried not to look at the seat again, but every night without fail, she would be there in the reflection, silent, still, watching. One night, curiosity got the best of me. I sat in the empty seat. The second I did, a chill ran through my body, like I had just plunged into an icy lake. The air around me grew dense, suffocating, and then I felt it, fingers brushing against my wrist. I jerked my hand away and turned. The seat was empty, but in the reflection, the woman was sitting right beside me, her head slowly tilting toward mine. I stumbled off at the next stop, my heart pounding. I barely slept that night, replaying the sensation over and over. I convinced myself it was stress, exhaustion, anything but what it seemed. The next night I stood instead of sitting. I avoided looking at the window. But then I heard something, a whisper, a voice so faint I almost thought I imagined it. "Why did you take my seat?" My blood turned to ice. I whipped around, expecting to see a prankster or someone trying to mess with a foreigner, but no one was there. The other passengers were either asleep or glued to their phones. I bolted out of the train as soon as the doors opened and took the long way home. That night I dreamt of drowning, cold, endless water pulling me down, hands grasping at my ankles, my wrists, a face, pale and bloated, staring at me from the depths. The following evening, I debated taking a taxi, but it was too expensive. I had no choice but to take the train again. This time I stood by the door, gripping the handlebar so tightly my knuckles turned white. I kept my gaze down, avoiding all reflections. But as the train rattled through the tunnel, the overhead lights flickered. The sound of static filled the air. When the lights steadied, every single passenger was gone. I was alone. Or so I thought. The seat was no longer empty. She was there. This time, not just in the reflection. She was real. Her hair hung in damp clumps over her face, her kimono stained with something dark. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't move. The train slowed. The doors opened, and she stood. Step by step, she moved toward me, her bare feet dragging along the floor, leaving wet prints behind. "Why did you take my seat?" she whispered again. This time I heard her. I bolted, shoving past her and out onto the platform. The moment my feet hit the ground, the normal bustle of the station returned. The train was full of people again. I turned back. The seat was empty. I never took the last train again. Weeks later, I found an old article buried deep in a forum. A woman decades ago had drowned in the Sumida River. They had found her body, bloated and broken in the train yard, as if she had tried to board even in death. The last train of the night had been her ritual. I don't know if she was looking for revenge, or if she was simply trying to exist in a world that had already left her behind, but I know this: that seat was never meant for the living.